Hello, everyone. It's Louisa Bada with Spectrum Realty Services, and I'm back again today. This time we're interviewing Weston Village Residents Association, and we've got Dave Bennett, our chair. Doesn't like the word president.
No, that is not accurate. No.
And Jason Doolin, who's a new member. So we want to sort of introduce you and the Residents Association to what is the Weston Village Residents Association all about?
Yeah, good question. And so it's an umbrella group over a lot of other organizations. Weston is a great small town village. I like to brag to all my friends who live outside of the village and Weston that we've got some great grassroots organizations, and we found years ago that we were doing events on the same weekends and just not getting enough volunteers to the ground or organizing ourselves just to make a difference, because these are great groups, right? We want to support those groups, and so if you look at the table of who's on our steering committee, and we can talk about that more later, right? We've got over a dozen groups supported by the table of when we're getting together. Yeah. And so it's non-profit, non-political, right? We definitely have to work with all of our representatives. We have representatives from all three levels of the government come to our meetings. And the steering committee, if you want me to segue into that, we meet every other month. We didn't meet in the summer, and now we have to meet in the summer because we've got that much to table. And it's great. It's great. We've got a great group of volunteers, and I've been volunteering in this association now for over a decade.
Okay. So tell us a little bit more about often what hits the agenda at one of your meetings.
Yeah, good point. And so we want to know about dates way early on. So Neighbors Night Out, that's been going on for 13 plus years. That's Surrey's baby, right? And people usually come on to the steering committee with a passion of something, right? And we support them in that passion. And therefore, another little group gets started, and we hook them up with the city if they need that, permits, whatever needs to get done, right? Pumpkin Parade, that's fairly new. That's another new member, Joanne. The Pumpkin Parade, we've sponsored that for the last 3 years, and it's going strong. And it's a great, simple, green, community, it just checks off all the boxes for me.
Yeah, you got Ryan that did the cleanup coalition.
Yeah,
or community coalition.
Yeah, he joined last year.
Right.
Yeah, and so he moved into the community, reached out to us through the website. We met, and we just want to just kind of. We call it an interview process. It's just a process to understand what he expects from us and what we expect from him. He came on to the first meeting as a guest. No pressure, right? No pressure, and that was his passion, right? He didn't like the garbage. He didn't like the garbage, and what do I do with that?
No,
right?
And it's awesome. He's collected a lot of garbage.
Yeah, and I've got my hands dirty in that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And Mount Dennis kind of did the same thing, and I've been cleaning up in Mount Dennis for a dozen years because I live right at the border. I'm a Weston resident by one street, and
thank God.
And we help them with their cleanup because it's and a lot of people have a lot of input. And there's a lot of talk, and because there's litter out there that's not on the city property. And what can the city do with that, right? And so if you just have someone that just walks through and picks it up, well, isn't that a good thing? Right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we got people like Patricia that wanted to start the butterfly garden, right?
Yeah.
And we've got members of the conservation district on board. And like you said, as well as the politicians that show up.
Yeah.
And other members of the community that can help in other ways. People that are landscape architects. We've had lawyers on the board. We've had people that work for developers. We've had
external staff.
That's right. I mean, it's quite the diverse group. So we have passionate residents, like you, or residents on that board, like you said.
Yep.
Jason's a new member. Jason, how long have you been in Weston for?
I think it's almost 22, 23 years.
And you finally decided to join.
I know.
My God, where were you? It's like
I don't know what happened, but yeah, I finally decided to get a little more involved. I had time on my hands. I retired recently, so I had time, and you know, my attitude, I think like many people, if you can't accept what you see around you, then lean in and try to change it.
Excellent.
And so that's why I got involved.
So you reached out. How did you go about reaching out?
I just started talking to neighbors, and somebody seems to always know somebody who's, you know, connected to the Weston Village Residents Association. I know Suri well, and I stopped into her store one day, and she put me in touch with Dave. And I think we had a little coffee chat, right?
That week.
Yeah. So, and that's how things started.
Okay, so tell us about your experiences being one of the newest members.
Yeah, well, the first thing that caught me was when we had that little coffee chat, it was important, I could tell it was important for Dave that he be bringing people in who are very passionate. Not just about, even though they may have a passion project, they were really interested in the good of Weston overall. So they really cared about the broader community and not just one item. And he was really interested in diversity of ideas and thinking and perspectives. And when I joined the association, what I found was it was a really talented bunch. You know, you mentioned where some of them were lawyers from the past or used to work with the city. It's a really talented group, and it was amazing for me that as I poked around on my little pet project, the thing that I kind of had passion for, just how many resources I could access. People, the things that people knew and the ways to get information and how supportive they were was amazing. And that really was surprising to me, just how effective this group can be.
So we've hopefully fulfilled your expectations and exceeded them?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
You want to touch on your pet project a little bit?
Yeah, so my pet project.
You can't leave everybody hanging.
Yeah, so I was in marketing for many years with a large company, and so I love building a business case or selling an idea. And I know that residents had been talking about trying to attract, say, a brew pub or a grocery store, now that Greenland is gone, back into the community. And so I had that passion, and I thought, look, I could just do a little bit of homework and maybe see if I could build a pitch.
Right.
And maybe attract some people to come in and see Weston and show them its potential. You know, we're going to have lots of new residents showing up at some point, and we think that there's a lot of hidden potential to be had, even still in Weston. So my passion project was putting that business case together, and in fact, we toured around a craft brewery president, a coffee company, and I've toured with a person in the grocery business through Weston, looking at maps, putting them in touch with the people who are managing the banks, the Bank of Montreal and TD. And I mean, I might be crazy for trying, and the chances might not be high, but I wouldn't feel good if I didn't turn some rocks over and try. So that's been my passion project.
Nothing happens unless you try, and you'll never know. So good for you, good for us.
Yeah.
If it's not today, maybe it's next year or the year after, right?
That's right. And plus, I get to spin off of everybody else's ideas, because there's other ideas around the table, and they welcome the collaboration, and that's a part I really enjoy.
So, development and people coming. So this is a bit of a hot topic right now with, and it will continue to be, because we've got lots of development happening in Weston. It's it's becoming with the UPX and Mount Dennis Transit Hub that's coming in.
Yep.
There's a directive, city directive for sure, to intensify areas around transit to move people. So I think we're going to talk maybe a little bit about Greenland specifically today. That's our next one. That's the one that's coming up, I guess.
Yeah. And it's important for us to represent the residents, and so we are met this week to get guiding principles laid out on how we're going to go about properly representing the residents. And so in those guiding principles in a skeleton form, we need an application. We need the public meeting, right? Well advertised, right, by the developer or the councillor. Good attendance, right? If it's poor attendance or something goes on, well, then we need to get re-attendance. The meeting about the Greenlands, which was in November, that was very well attended. We had over 120 people there, and I'm proud to say that we had 12 people from the steering committee in that meeting.
Yeah.
And they all asked very poignant questions, right? And then only after that do we ever meet with the developer, right? Upon Francis's request, and so they all come to the table. It's important to us that development is done and done right, because the development's going to be here for 100 years.
We'll be dead. It'll still be here.
No different than the school on George Street, right? Schools don't get replaced except for 50 years, right? That school is going to be there for even longer than that because it's at its maximum size. And so you only get a chance once, and we want to properly represent Weston. And so we make lots of notes and with the staff report, and that's very key. We took the time. We had many members last night go over the preliminary staff report, and that's very important for everybody to understand. It's not the final staff report. The city expects them to remake and redraw that development because they're not happy with it, right? And in a letter that we released the first week of January to to.ca, we're very clear that we don't support that development, right? And that our hopes were, right, per quote in the Guardian, that the developer reaches out to other groups in the area and works with those groups to improve that development for the betterment of Weston. All of the developments that we really liked prior all had community benefits. And I'm not talking Section 37, right? I'm talking real community benefits that are mortared into those developments and that are there for the long term, right? There for 100 years, whatever that is, right? More classroom space or whatever have you. We're not doing it for a pat on the back. We all don't have personal agendas. We all live here, and we're just looking for an improvement, whatever that is, right?
If I asked when the seniors building, I wasn't even aware that they're going to make one. I could use that one down the line.
It's probably going to be 3-4 years before it gets built at
I might
least.
be dead too.
We hope
Me too, actually, but that's a long time for me.
and so to that point, and thanks for speaking up. We understand that there's people that are living in Weston that need to move to a one floor living, right? And what they first proposed was a one elevator, 16 floor mismatch of 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms that just didn't work out with that small footprint. And so what they ended up doing, and that after we went through those preliminary things, right, a public meeting definitely happened first, and that's very helpful. We need to hear from residents. And so now that's going to be a 1 and 2 bedroom units with a floor for guests. So if your guests come and they need to stay in their own, need to stay in their own place. 2 elevators. There's a walking path on the very top, so you can get your steps in and still be secure. And from that,
Put my name in.
Oh yeah. You know what I said when they redraw this? I said this is a place I would put my mother.
Oh well.
Right? And well, that's what we're kind of
That's
we're a
good to
big
hear.
family. We're a big family in Weston, I think, right?
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Well, thank you. I'm sorry I'm interrupting, but that intrigued me.
if people have comments they want to leave or they want us to maybe bring up with the developer, there's always leaving it on the website.
Oh yeah, there's lots of ways of getting hold of us. We're all online. Surrey Store also has an open counter there.
Right.
The website, right? And we're always looking for new not new blood, but new steering committee members. And so reach out. We'll follow the process just like Jason did, and the other 6 members that joined last year. We meet every other month for 2 hours, right? And if you don't show up for 3 in a row, right, so it's a big commitment, right?
Right.
And I can understand, but warm seats make a difference.
So 3 in a row is your test of commitment, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And I realize that scares people off, but having empty seats, right? That doesn't help us move forward. Like for the NNO, for Neighbors Night Out, right? On our biggest night, we served just short of 800 people, right? Wow. In like 90 minutes. So it needs a lot of, and sure, yeah, you don't need to be a volunteer and a steering committee, but we need those bodies. And it makes a difference, and the diversity that Jason spoke about. Boy, oh boy, that's super helpful when somebody at that table has that answer or that connection, and you can move on. There's no waiting. Yeah.
I suppose if somebody wanted something tabled, whether it was at one of the meetings or with an upcoming meeting, or they can't make it, they can go onto the website and send an email, can't they?
Sure. Right.
Right.
And then we look into it, because it's all about the betterment of everything. It's not all brick and mortar, right? It's groups and people that want to are passionate and want to get that grassroots program off the ground, right? Sometimes you need a little bit of help.
Yeah.
Right. Like. Yeah.
We all have similar interests in that, or similar goals in the end. We just want a better community to live in, to leave to our kids, and I think we're all sort of heading in the right or the same direction.
Yeah, we have a lot of development pressure, is what I'd like to call it, and you can't just go site after site after site, right? What you said in the meeting last night, Jason, right? We have to have a holistic approach, right? And it has to make sense for what's currently here and in moving forward.
Do you have anything else you wanted to add? Yeah,
I do want to ask, because this preliminary report to the developer of the Greenlands property has come out, and I know you had to really dig and search for it, is there a way that people could access that?
Good point. It's 28 pages, and so it's a daunting document. So my plan, we've highlighted all the points that definitely jump out to us, and we will put that as a link, right?
Yeah.
Because that document is not within the development application, and that's a shame. And that's a shame for residents that want to educate themselves. Maybe they don't want to go all the way out and join a committee, right? But they want to educate themselves, and I want everybody to do that, right? So yeah, we'll definitely make that available with our highlighted notes. And if somebody says we missed something, thanks. Yeah, and there's another point that we'll highlight.
Great. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming out.
Pleasure. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. We'll do this again another time.
Sure.